The one thing that separates geniuses from ordinary people isn't talent, education, or luck. It's something you can access right now, for free. But most people run away from it every single day. Look around you right now. How many people do you see desperately scrolling through social media, filling every silent moment with noise, music, podcasts, or conversations? Here's the uncomfortable truth. They're all running from the same thing: solitude. But what if I told you that this thing everyone's avoiding is actually the secret weapon used by every great mind in history? What if the very thing that makes you uncomfortable is the exact thing that could unlock your greatest potential? Today, we're diving into the mind of Arthur Schopenhauer, a 19th century German philosopher who cracked the code on why solitude isn't just beneficial. It's absolutely essential for greatness. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the smartest people in the world actively choose to be alone. I know that Arthur is not an important character in the history of Japan or Eastern culture, but what he taught in his writings is also very valuable, so it will be shared here on this channel. But first, let me blow your mind with this. Studies show that the average person today can't sit alone with their thoughts for more than 6 minutes without reaching for their phone. 6 minutes! Meanwhile, Schopenhauer spent entire years in deliberate solitude, and it made him one of the most influential thinkers who ever lived. The connection isn't a coincidence, but this is just the beginning. Arthur Schopenhauer wasn't born into solitude. He was actually born into wealth and privilege in 1788. His father wanted him to become a merchant, travel the world, meet people, build connections. Sound familiar? It's the exact advice parents give their kids today. But here's where it gets interesting. Young Arthur tried the social route. He went to parties, tried to fit in, attempted to build those important relationships everyone talks about. And you know what happened? He was miserable. Absolutely miserable. Then something clicked. He made a choice that would change philosophy forever. He chose solitude. Not isolation, not depression, not giving up on life, but deliberate, intentional solitude. And that's when the magic happened. See, Schopenhauer discovered something that modern neuroscience is only now proving. When you remove all the external noise, all the social pressures, all the need to perform for others, your brain enters a completely different state. He wrote, "In solitude, the small-minded person feels all his smallness. The great spirit feels all his greatness." Think about that for a second. When was the last time you felt your true greatness? Not the version of yourself you perform for Instagram, not the personality you put on at work or school, but your actual, authentic greatness? Most people never experience this because they're too busy being someone else. But Schopenhauer understood that solitude isn't about being lonely. It's about being yourself, your real self, without filters, without masks, without the constant need to please everyone around you. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Schopenhauer noticed something that will blow your mind about human nature. He called it the porcupine dilemma. Picture this. It's freezing cold winter. A group of porcupines huddle together for warmth. But when they get too close, they hurt each other with their spikes. So they move apart, but then they get cold again. So they move closer, and the cycle repeats. Sound like any relationships you know? This is exactly what happens with most people. They desperately crave connection, but the closer they get to others, the more they compromise their true selves. They start changing their opinions, their dreams, their entire personality, just to fit in. Schopenhauer saw this and said, "Not me." He chose to step away from the porcupine dance entirely. But here's what's crazy. The more time he spent alone, the more valuable his ideas became to the world. His book, The World as Will and Representation, is still studied in universities today, almost 200 years later. Why? Because when you're not constantly adjusting yourself to fit other people's expectations, you can finally access your original thoughts, your authentic insights, your true genius. Modern research backs this up completely. Neuroscientists have discovered that our brains have something called the default mode network. This is literally the network that activates when we're not focused on external tasks or social interactions. And guess what this network does? It's responsible for creativity, self-reflection, problem-solving, and what researchers call insight moments, those sudden breakthroughs that seem to come out of nowhere. But here's the kicker. This network only activates when you're alone and not distracted. No wonder Schopenhauer became a genius. He was essentially giving his brain the perfect conditions to operate at maximum capacity. But this isn't just about becoming smart. There's something much deeper happening here. A recent study by researchers at Harvard University found something incredible about solitude and creativity. They took two groups of people and gave them creative problem-solving tasks. One group worked in teams, constantly collaborating and bouncing ideas off each other. The other group worked in complete solitude. The results? The solitude group consistently produced more original, innovative solutions. But here's what really shocked the researchers. When they interviewed the participants afterward, the people who worked alone reported feeling more confident in their ideas and more satisfied with their work. As one neuroscientist with over 20 years of experience studying the brain put it, solitude doesn't just improve creativity, it improves your relationship with your own mind. When you're constantly seeking external validation, you never learn to trust your own judgment. And that's exactly what Schopenhauer discovered about himself. The more time he spent alone, the more he trusted his own insights. He stopped needing approval from others because he had developed something much more valuable: self-approval. Think about the most successful people you know. Really think about them. Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Einstein, Tesla. What do they all have in common? They made decisions that went against popular opinion. They trusted their own judgment over the crowd's error. But how do you develop that level of self-trust? How do you learn to value your own opinion over everyone else's? Schopenhauer found the answer. And what he discovered next will change how you think about success forever. Here's where Schopenhauer's philosophy gets really powerful. He realized that most people are living their entire lives as performers in someone else's play. Think about your typical day. How much of what you do is genuinely for yourself, and how much is performance for others? The clothes you wear, the things you say, even the goals you pursue. How many of these choices are really yours? Schopenhauer spent years in what he called productive solitude. And during this time, he made a shocking discovery about human nature. He found that we have two selves. The social self, the version of you that adapts, pleases, and performs for others. And the authentic self, your true thoughts, desires, and capabilities that only emerge in solitude. Here's the brutal truth. Most people never meet their authentic self. They're so busy being who others want them to be that they never discover who they actually are. But when Schopenhauer embraced solitude, something incredible happened. His authentic self emerged, and this self was far more powerful than his social self had ever been. He wrote some of the most influential philosophy in human history. He influenced everyone from Nietzsche to Freud to modern psychology, all because he had the courage to be alone with himself. But here's what nobody tells you about solitude. It's not just about being physically alone. You can be surrounded by people and still be in profound solitude if you stop performing for them. The key is what Schopenhauer called inner independence. This is when your sense of worth, your confidence, and your decision-making process become completely internal. You stop asking, "What will others think?" and start asking, "What do I actually think?" You stop seeking validation from the crowd and start trusting your own judgment. You stop being afraid of being different and start being afraid of being fake. This is when greatness becomes possible. Because greatness isn't about doing what everyone else is doing better. It's about doing what only you can do. And you can only discover what only you can do when you spend serious time alone with yourself. But wait, there's something even more powerful about solitude that Schopenhauer discovered, and it's going to completely change your perspective. Here's something that will blow your mind. Schopenhauer realized that solitude doesn't just make you more creative or confident, it makes you more attractive to others. I know. That sounds completely backwards. How can spending time alone make you more appealing to other people? Here's the secret. When you develop inner independence, when you become comfortable with yourself, when you stop desperately needing others for validation, you become magnetic. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who was perfectly content being alone? Someone who didn't seem needy or desperate for attention? Someone who was genuinely comfortable in their own skin? These people are rare, and they're incredibly attractive, not just romantically, but socially, professionally, in every way. Why? Because they have something that most people desperately want but can never find: authenticity. Schopenhauer understood this paradox perfectly. The less you need people, the more they want to be around you. The more comfortable you are with solitude, the more others seek your company. But here's the most shocking part of all. When Schopenhauer finally published his major work, after years of solitary thinking, the world initially ignored it. For years, almost no one bought his books. He was devastated. But did he give up? Did he change his ideas to become more popular? Did he start writing what people wanted to hear? He doubled down on solitude. He kept developing his authentic thoughts. He kept trusting his own judgment over the crowd's opinion. And eventually, the world caught up to him. His ideas became the foundation for modern psychology, influenced countless philosophers, and are still studied today. This is the ultimate power of solitude. It makes you timeless instead of trendy. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you living for applause or for authenticity? Are you making decisions based on what others will think or based on what you actually believe? Are you running from solitude because you're afraid of what you might discover about yourself? Or are you brave enough to meet the person you really are? Schopenhauer spent his life proving that the greatest achievements don't come from fitting in. They come from standing out. And you can't stand out if you don't first stand alone. Your phone will buzz. Your friends will call. The world will try to pull you back into the performance, back into the crowd, back into being just another face in the audience. But remember what Schopenhauer learned in those years of solitude. The greatest minds are those who have learned to be at home with themselves. The question isn't whether you can afford to spend time in solitude. The question is, can you afford not to? Your authentic self is waiting. Your greatest ideas are waiting. Your true potential is waiting. All you have to do is have the courage to be alone with yourself long enough to meet them. Because in a world full of copies, only solitude can reveal the original. And the original you, that's where greatness lives.